Hi, this is Reverend Kathy with a 5-minute Bible talk. On Sundays, we've been exploring parables as Jesus' core teaching tool that he used. We've been talking about how parables are those stories that have a meaning beyond the expected, that these stories point externally to something different and a much wider reference to it. And in the book, The Power of Parable by John Dominic Crossan, he talks about that there are 3 kinds of parables. There's the example parable, which is a story that's easily decoded. It's a moral model, and it consciously and deliberately points to what's beyond it. And so there's really not a whole lot of guesswork. Do this as I have done, basically. The other one is the challenge parable. And that's a story that challenges the listeners to think and discuss, perhaps to argue with, contemplate its meaning. Because the format reassures that there is cultural normalcy, but the content subverts that. And it's almost as if tradition is challenged, then it may be destroyed. But if it's not challenged, it will be destroyed. And so the listener tugs at it and pulls at it and sees if it can stretch in any way to find that meaning, because it is not what is expected. Let's look at the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector as we'll look at it as an example and a challenge parable. It comes out of Luke chapter 18, verses 9 through 14. Jesus also told this parable to those who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and regarded others with contempt. And he said, 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, was praying thus, God, I thank you that I'm not like other people, thieves, rogues, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give 1/10 of all my income. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even look up to heaven, but was beating his breast and saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, Jesus said, this man went down to his home justified rather than the other. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and all who are humbled will be exalted. Now, if we were to look at that as an example parable, it would be very simple. Is that here's the good guy going to the temple, the Pharisee, person who has devoted his life to the Judaic teachings. And why wouldn't he pray and be grateful to God for the life that he is living? And isn't his devotion godly and not about himself? And here's the tax collector. Yeah, God, such a bad reputation. Be like the Pharisee, not the tax collector. But John Crossan says, what if it's a challenge parable? Because why did Jesus attach job descriptions? Why didn't he just say 2 men went up to the temple? Why say a Pharisee and a tax collector? Because the normal expectation would be, yeah, here's the good guy and here's the bad guy. I get it. But Jesus said those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Somewhere else in the Bible it says those who are first shall be last, and those who are last shall be first. It's not what you expect. It gives you something to think about, doesn't it? Even today, that story rings true to us. So I invite you to allow that parable to challenge you, challenge your expectations, and to see a much wider, a different reference. Blessings.